All you can do is lock me up, but not forever. One day I'll get out. One day they'll get out. That's the law. That's the law. That's the law. And I'll be back. I'll be back. You'll hear from me. You and the whole f***ing world.
No, we won't.
There are plenty of ways to lose out on a big Hollywood role. Bad auditions, scheduling conflicts, and sometimes just bad luck. But imagine missing out on a career-changing part because of a 2-inch lie on your resume. That's exactly what happened to Playboy Playmate Jeana Keough when she was passed over for the role of Charles Bronson's daughter in the 1983 neo-noir thriller, 10 to Midnight. The film has since become a cult classic, blending the gritty police procedural with the slasher horror aesthetic that dominated the early 80s. It's a unique hybrid, one part psychological thriller, one part action-packed revenge flick, and one part gruesome horror film. It may have been dismissed by critics at the time, but decades later, it remains one of the most fascinatingly bizarre films of its era. And yet, for all its over-the-top moments, 10 to Midnight was chillingly inspired by real-life killers whose crimes shocked the world. Before we get into those disturbing cases, let's take a closer look at the film itself. Charles Bronson, the king of tough guy cinema, plays Leo Kessler, a grizzled LAPD detective trying to put away a psychopathic killer named Warren Stacy, played by Gene Davis. Kessler is a man worn down by the justice system and determined to catch his suspect at any cost, even if it means breaking the law himself. Warren, on the other hand, is a terrifying Ted Bundy-esque predator who murders women after they reject his advances, and he does so in an unsettlingly unique way, completely naked, so as not to leave behind any physical evidence. His character is a study in repressed rage and misogyny, a theme that was becoming all too familiar in both real-life crime and Hollywood horror films at the time. When Kessler realizes the legal system won't be able to convict Warren, he takes matters into his own hands by planting evidence. A decision that backfires spectacularly, getting him fired and allowing Warren to walk free. But the real tension builds when Warren sets his sights on Kessler's daughter, Lori, played by Lisa Eilbacher. What follows is a brutal game of cat and mouse, culminating in a shocking and violent climax that remains one of the most memorable moments in 80s crime cinema. The movie was directed by J. Lee Thompson, a veteran filmmaker best known for Cape Fear, 1962, and his frequent collaborations with Bronson. By the early 80s, Thompson had become a go-to director for Cannon Films, the production company notorious for churning out low-budget, high-intensity action flicks. The production had all the hallmarks of a Cannon project: excessive violence, gratuitous nudity, and a heavy-handed message about the failures of the justice system. But what 10 to Midnight lacks in subtlety, it makes up for in sheer audacity. The film's blend of slasher horror and police thriller tropes set it apart from other Bronson films of the time, making it a standout even among his long list of vigilante roles. The inspiration for the film's killer came from real-life criminals, most notably Ted Bundy, Richard Speck, and the Thames River Killer. Bundy was infamous for using his charm and good looks to lure unsuspecting women to their deaths. Like Warren Stacy in 10 to Midnight, Bundy was a textbook sociopath who masked his depravity under a seemingly normal facade. He would often feign injury, wearing a fake cast or using crutches, to appear harmless while asking women for help. Once they were within reach, he would overpower and abduct them, later subjecting them to unspeakable horrors before killing them. His calculated methods of deception and his ability to blend into everyday society made him one of the most terrifying serial killers of all time. His trial in the late 70s captivated the nation, and his execution in 1989 was met with cheers outside the prison where he was put to death. Actor Gene Davis, who played Warren Stacy, went all in on his disturbing role. He reportedly stayed in character off-set, which made for an unsettling experience for his co-stars. During the intense murder sequences, he became so engrossed in the role that he accidentally dislocated an actress's arm. The commitment to his performance, combined with his eerily cold and detached portrayal of Stacy, made him one of the most unsettling villains in 80s cinema. Meanwhile, Charles Bronson was going through his own transformation for the film. At 61 years old, he was starting to show his age, and the filmmakers wanted him to appear younger to better fit the role. Bronson, never one to shy away from a challenge, underwent plastic surgery before filming began. The effort to de-age him was subtle but noticeable, proving just how dedicated he was to maintaining his action hero image. And then there's the title, 10 to Midnight. Unlike most movie titles, this one had absolutely nothing to do with the plot. Producer Pancho Coner came up with it purely because it sounded dramatic and marketable. In fact, the film was originally titled Bloody Sunday, but Cannon Films chairman Menahem Golan decided that 10 to Midnight had a better ring to it. To justify the name, the marketing team created a theatrical poster with a clock showing 10 minutes to midnight and the tagline, "A cop, a killer, a bloody deadline." The name may have been random, but it certainly added to the film's mystique. Now let's get back to Jeana Keough's height debacle. Keough, a former Playboy Playmate, was considered for the role of Lori Kessler. According to her, Charles Bronson personally wanted her for the part, but the filmmakers were told she was too tall. The catch? She wasn't. She had lied on her Playboy modeling profile, claiming to be 5 feet 9 inches when in reality she was 5 feet 7 inches, the exact same height as Lisa Eilbacher, who ultimately got the role. That small fabrication cost her a chance to star alongside one of Hollywood's most legendary action heroes. Despite its initial poor reception, 10 to Midnight gained a devoted following through late-night cable airings and home video. Fans of 80s exploitation cinema praise it for its blend of action, horror, and unintentional camp. And its themes, cop versus legal system, misogynistic violence, and vigilantism, make it a strangely fitting companion piece to Death Wish, another Bronson-led film that sparked similar debates. Over the years, it has earned its place as a cult classic, with many revisiting it as a prime example of Bronson's late career grit and Cannon Films' signature brand of over-the-top action. Now it's time to hear from you. Have you seen 10 to Midnight? What do you think about Bronson's brand of justice in this film? And do you think Jeana Keough's height fib was an understandable mistake or a Hollywood cautionary tale? Let us know in the comments.